Welcome back to another episode of the Breadwinner Energy Podcast. I am excited to share this episode with you guys today because this is going to be a little bit different than things I've talked about before. This episode's definitely going to be probably more woo than I usually am openly on this podcast. I know I talk a lot about like structure. A lot of the things I talk about are strategy, are grounded. But I know that I've also cracked open the door to being woo. And I think today is going to further that while also giving you some grounded, practical steps for yourself. I am a firm believer that in order to hit your goals in your business, you need two things. Number one is you need a plan, you need a strategy, you need something to follow that actually drives results. And then the second thing you need is the identity required to carry out said plan. I have been marketing now for the last couple weeks my Rebel CEO Business Planning Intensive. It's in October. It's 4 weeks long. There's 4 calls. There's Voxer support in between. And I am taking every single person through my process of planning and hitting goals in my business, coming up with your 3-year plan for your business and how you actually effectively run a business and then become the version of you that runs that business. And so through that, which I also teach in my mastermind, we're having a lot of conversation about this plan. And so many people have so many thoughts. A lot of people are like, I love a plan. I love planning. I almost never or hardly ever execute a plan, or I can't imagine executing a plan for an entire year, let alone 3 years. And I always find those conversations really interesting because those conversations almost always match the results someone does or doesn't have, right? If someone says, like, I can't stick to a plan and also my business isn't working, those two things coincide with one another, right? It's, I love planning, aka I'm always behind the scenes, but rarely ever do I execute said plan. That would, again, tell me the kind of results you do or don't get in your business. And so that is why it is really, really important to have the plan. And then it's really important to become the version of you that executes said plan. Now, I also find this conversation really interesting too, because the women in my space almost always I would consider a black sheep, a rebel, ambitious, go-getter, right? Like a hustler. Like most of the women in my space are probably in those categories because if you weren't one of those categories, I can't imagine that you would be in my space per se because I'm pretty, direct to the point, let's do it, let's go after the shit kind of person. And so I find this really interesting because even though at your core, right, you're a hustler and you're a go-getter, the truth is you've always been taught how to survive. So you have really good survival skills, but that is not the same energy of the version of you that is required to scale a business. Those are two different things. And so this also is where your identity is being butted up against each other, right? The survival part of you who can run on all day, no food, no water, no bathroom breaks, and like get shit done version of you, right? Who then like burns out and crashes out. That version of you can't actually scale a business. Could not. At that level, I could 100% promise you, I could not execute a business plan for an entire year, let alone 3 years, if my method was to hustle to myself to burn out and then quit or stop, right? And then go back and forth between those two. And so that again is the identity of the version of you that survives, that has gotten to where you are, that is in business, but it's not the version of you that can actually scale a business. And this is what I teach in my Breadwinner Energy Academy is shadow work. It is helping you close the gap between who you currently are and the version of you that is actually required to have the success you want in your life, to hit the goals that you have in your life. It does require identity work. Now, I told a story here recently to my community about how before I ever hit my first 10K months, I actually did not believe, let me say it this way. I was not convinced that 10K months was achievable. I even said, I don't know that other people actually make that amount of money. And my business coach that I just hired at the time, she kind of laughed because she had made 7 figures. And she was like, people absolutely do, right? And then other people in the group were chiming in, like, I make that, I make that, whatever. I wasn't totally in belief. And then, not even 90 days later, I had my first launch. I not only hit my first ever 10K month, but I had a $30,000 launch. And 6 months after that, I was a six-figure business owner. I tell you this because people will tell you, you have to believe it, you have to embody it, right? But the truth was, I didn't fully believe it. I really didn't. I didn't fully believe I could do it. I didn't really fully believe other people could do it. And I still had that result. Here's the caveat. I still took aligned action towards said goal and believed enough in my own identity to follow through on said goal. So, first and foremost, I literally invested $10,000 to be in that program to begin with. I invested $10,000 into a coaching container. My husband sold his car so I could be there before ever making 10K months, right? Because the thing was, I knew there was something missing. I was like, I don't have a certain strategy, I don't have a certain method. Like, there is something missing that I'm not able to get to my goals. So, I need support, right? And while I didn't totally believe that could happen, I still wanted it to happen. I still really, really was like, I really want this. Like, I want a six-figure business. And I did what was required to have one. And I think this is where people get mixed up, right? They get this place like, I really want it. I really want it. I really want it. And like, okay, well, what are you willing to do for it? Right. And then it's this, well, I have these doubts and I have these limiting beliefs. And so they don't go after goals because of one of those two things. And so then when I was in the group, I showed up and I got coaching. But then when I left coaching calls, I actually did the work and implemented. I actually launched a group coaching offer for the very first time. Yes, I had doubts. Yes, I didn't know how the launch would go. Yes, I was fearful and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And I invested this money. Like those thoughts were there. And I still executed said plan. And I still said, I'm going to go after this 100% as if this could work. Because as much as I think it maybe won't, that I still have some belief that maybe it could, right? This, though, is required to hitting goals. This is required at every single level. If hustle alone, hard work alone, grit and survival alone would give you high cash months, high cash years, you would already be at them. You would be at them. Because, like I said, I guarantee if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a go getter, a hustler, a worker. Like you're not afraid of work, right? At some level. Because if you're totally afraid of work, I just can't imagine you would be in entrepreneurship. But are you actually taking aligned action and are you actually matching it with your identity required? So, what this would look like, this is an exercise I take my Breadwinner Energy Academy people through. When you first come into this group, I take you through an exercise to help you identify what are like the top five things you want in your life or your business, income goals, life goals. Like, how do you truly want to like feel? What do you want to have? What do you want to obtain? Then we talk about your top five shadows, and I give you like a bunch of lists to choose from because I don't just have you like make things up out of your brain because sometimes that can be really hard. I come up with like lists, right? Like, so we then go into what we like to call your shadows. What are your top five shadows that you operate out of? Is it people pleasing? Is it performing and proving and perfectionism? Is it avoidance? Is it betrayal, rejection, not feeling good enough, imposter syndrome, right? What are those? And getting really, really clear on like how this is showing currently showing up in your life and in your business. So how are you reacting, right? Are you over clinging? Do you have like really panicky energy? Are you making decisions from like anxiety and like fear? Or like most people don't even realize it, but a lot of their decisions are coming from this like overly fearful, worried lack mentality or lack place. And they're saying like, oh, this was intuitively decided. And then when we get more into it, I'm like, that was totally decided out of fear. That was not intuitive at all, right? And so just bringing this awareness to people in itself has been like enough to be like, this entire investment was worth it because you didn't have this awareness once before. Once we understand how you're currently reacting and what your shadows actually are, now we can clearly see this cycle of like what you say you want and how you operate your life and business are not in alignment. And there's clearly a misalignment between, again, what you desire and how you show up and how you sell and how you market and how you run your business. And then we go to the third thing, which is what are you already made of? Like, what is the makeup of your highest self that you're already made of? What is that version of you? Resilient, right? Creative, caring, ambitious, Maybe you're a trailblazer, intuitive, resourceful, bold, magnetic, like the pieces of you that are like you at your core, right? So now we have this like cycle on paper. We see your desires, we see your shadows, we see how you react to those shadows, and then we see the makeup of who you already are at your core, which is I call your highest self. And then what we look at is how if you are actually making decisions from your highest self, who is resilient, who is creative, who's a trailblazer, who's magnetic, it would give you said results. But when we actually look at the actions and reactions that you're currently taking, which are not your higher self, they're totally from your shadows, we can like see on paper where your identity it needs cleaned up. Like your own unique identity. That's where it needs cleaned up is right there. Knowing your shadows and how you react and also knowing this is who your highest self is and this is the version of you that if you would consistently show up as that version of you and make decisions from that grounded place, that you would have the results you want. Now, we also go into other things, right? Like nervous system, because nervous system plays a part in all of this. And we're not going to get into all of this today. But this will clearly show you where your identity is a mismatch for the life you say you want. Then we go into my mastermind, which is where we talk about strategy, right? Then what we talk about is like, okay, tell me how much money you want to make by this time next year. These are all the exercises we just did last week, which was so fun. I had a client tell me, I want to make $40,000 months next year. So $40,000 months is actually $480,000 a year, right? And so then, well, I asked her, okay, well, how much is your highest priced package? And I think she said something like, I think it was like $2,000, right? Which means she needs 20 people every month to sign up for her offer, or she needs like 240 people a year to sign up for her offer. So then we looked at, okay, how many leads would you need in your business in order to convert 240 clients? And I went with the 2% conversion rate. Industry standard went from 8% down to 2, which is a huge gap. Other coaches might tell you differently, but the truth is, until you have your own data and your own numbers and you know your own conversion rates, go with 2%. It's better to undershoot and over deliver. So let's see how many leads will she need? It was a lot. It was like, I think 20,000 leads. Yeah, it was like 25,000 leads in her business. So then I asked her, how do you currently feel now that we just did the math? Because she just shot out and was like 40K months. And I was like, cool. So signing 20 clients a month, signing 240 clients a year, and needing to get 25,000 new leads, fresh leads in your business in the next 12 months, how does that make you feel? She was like shocked. Like her face was like, holy shit, right? This is where we piece together the version of you that is required to operate the business at the highest level of you with your goals and desires, like clearly knowing what those are, and then putting an actual tangible strategy and map behind that, right? So when someone comes to me and they tell me how much money they want to make and we do that quick math, it's immediately going to show me where your gap is. You either have right there, you have an identity gap in what you believe you can do. You have a gap in sales, you have a gap in conversions, you have a gap in getting leads. So right now we already can see where that strategy might be able to happen in 2 to 3 years, but in the next year, that might not be possible, right? Because the strategies of what you currently have in your business, those would need changed. Offers might need changed. Pricing might need changed. And there's a lot that would need cleaned up. Therefore, this is why I do the 3 year planning method the way that I do. I do it from an identity standpoint and a strategic standpoint. And that's why I'm doing a 4 week intensive to show you exactly what that can look like in your business. In 4 weeks, not only are you going to know your identity gaps, you're going to know your business and strategy gaps, you're going to know what needs cleaned up, what needs to go, and a 3 year plan to execute in your future. Right. And then we have two offers. You join Academy and you clean up your identity, or you join the mastermind and you clean up your strategy and your identity because you get both, or you can, you do both at the same time. Now let's get into the woo-woo part, right? I'm going to tell you all about my experience meeting my higher self. So I have seen my higher self a bajillion times. I have seen her in meditation. I have seen her when got a light language session done. And I can see her in my third eye and I can see visions. Like in my third eye, it looks like a movie, right? Like I can see like her in my, like the future house that I will live in, right? And I've seen this vision a bajillion times. But I finally met her face to face and had a conversation with her in a hypnotherapy session a couple weeks ago. So I did a session, 6 sessions of hypnotherapy for my own childhood trauma because I am walking the walk of what I believe, which is taking care of your shit, taking care of your trauma, taking care of yourself in order to be a leader, right? And so I decided to do hypnotherapy, and it was a really, really amazing experience. Morgan, my hypnotherapist, I will tag her below. She's just like a chef's kiss of a human. Um, Anyway, so in my very last session, I do an inner child slash higher self hypnotherapy session. And so we're in the trailer that I grew up in, and it's me, like my current self, and then it's my inner child who was 7, and then my higher self came in. And when she came in the room and she walked herself through that trailer, she was in a full pantsuit and she was serving cunt. She was serving absolute cunt. She said no words at first. She just walks across the room, sits down, stares at me dead in my face. And I, like, even now, I've told this story now a few times. I like have chills every time I tell the story. But in the moment, I was just like taken back by her. Like breath was kind of like taken away. She like low key fucking scared me. It was like holy shit. Like she was a powerhouse. She was powerful. And she didn't say anything. Like it was the this energy that she gave off. Now, a part of me sitting now, telling you the story, I'm like, that makes sense because those are the same reactions I get from people when I go places, right? I've even been told this by people like, you are just a force to be reckoned with. And I've known this about me, but to see it from this perspective was just very different. And she sits down and we have a conversation. And I'm not going to tell you that conversation because it's very personal, but it was about my inner child self. It was about my future self. It was about like the way I'm carrying myself. It was about life. It was about relationships. It was about business. It was like a lot of things. But she had very, very sound advice. But I found it really interesting because as she was speaking and talking to me, she was very emotionally grounded. And that's something I've been really working on, right? Is my own shadows and my own reactions. Because again, hello, I'm a human and I have them too, which is why I do this work. And so you could tell that she had spent a lot of time cleaning up the way that she carries herself, her emotional reactions to things, the way that she just makes decisions, the way that she just is confident and convicted in who she is and what she does, right? And again, I when I say that, it's so funny because a part of me is like, duh, hello, it's me. Like I know this stuff about myself. But watching it from this place was just like it was just mind blowing. And I then went after this hypnotherapy session. I took some time and sat with it and sat with it and sat with it. And I journaled on it. And I saw in every area of my life and business where I thought to myself, she would never accept this. She would never do that. She would never operate the business that way. She would never make decisions that way. And I really had to get clear on that version of me that already exists in the quantum field, right? That I got to meet is the version of me that runs my multi-million dollar empire. She's that version. And there's so many places that I didn't realize that I was not fully stepping into and embodying that version of me to get to that place. And even though I thought I wasn't. I just wasn't. There were so many areas I was like, well, she would never do that. She would never say that. She would never have decided that. And it really helped me get clear on like the gap between what I say that I want, the life that I'm currently living, and the dream life that I have. Right. And so that has allowed me now to even filter decisions right now as I'm going through my own 3-year plan. It's really allowed me to filter decisions to be like, would she be ruminating on this? Would she be absolutely like, like beside herself about this decision? Or would she just make this decision and move forward? How would she make this decision? Right. And it's really cleaned up so much mind drama and business drama and strategy drama for me simply by embodying my next level self. And so, what I want to tell you in this episode is if you're not crystal clear on what this looks like for you between your higher self, like you're not clear on like who is my higher self? How do I meet her? How do I like truly understand who she is? And how do I uncover my own blocks? And how do I get clear on my desires? And how do I get clear on my shadows? Like if you want to know how to map out that cycle, I have a course for you. And this course walks you through all the steps. It has 3 90-minute video sessions, and then it has all the worksheets required for you to unpack your goals and your desires, your shadows, your actions, your reactions, and your higher self to like create your own map. Okay. So I'm going to link that below. It's called Shadow Work Intro, Uncover All Your Blocks. And let me tell you how much that costs because I don't even know. It's cost $77. So I will link that down below. Now, before you go clicking on that, if you join me, inside my 4 week live intensive, Rebel CEO Business Planning, you're not only going to get that completely free included, but you're also going to get 4 weeks live with me to actually plan out your strategy, to find the gaps in your strategy that are missing, to clearly know where do you need to clean up your identity and your business to hit six and multi six figures in the next 3 years. And it's going to be 4 weeks long. We're going to have 4 different calls with me live on Zoom. You're going to have Voxer support in between, templates, and I'm going to walk you through how to clean this up. Now, when you first pay, like if you go down the link below, you click and you pay, immediately going to get access to the Shadow Work Intro course that I just told you was $77. You're going to get immediate access in so you can start to do that as your pre-work before we start planning business, right? Because that'll be really important for you to have a clear picture of what that looks like before we kick off in October. Okay. So by the time this episode drops, you're going to have like a solid week to join me live, get your ticket, $297. It includes the shadow work course and then 4 weeks live with me to plan your business. But for now, I want you to think about what is the version of you that would make decisions, run the business, and hit your goals, dreams, and desires. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you